And if you have anything you want us or you want me to edit out later, just feel free to ask me.
Okay, I'm going to let people in from the waiting room here. And Gemma, you should be able to let people in the waiting room if they join after we get started. Okay. Looks like people are logging in. Hello, everybody. Feel free to turn your cameras on and say hello. Hi, Bill. Good to see you there in the studio. Hi, Carolyn. Good to see you. Lori, Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hey, guys.
Great. Hi, everybody. Wonderful to see you. Thanks for joining us. We're just letting people log in here. Hi, David. Bruce, nice to see you. So, hi, everybody. I'm Sadhu, and I'm with the Cortes Housing Society, and glad to see some board members joining us from the Housing Society. We've got Bill Weaver there, and I see Bruce Partridge. Can't see all the other folks that are on, but hopefully I'll see you in a minute as you log in. Okay, take a moment in the chat and let us know where you're dialing in from. Where are you zooming in from? I currently am in Toronto, so it's about 10 o'clock here. If you see me dozing off, that's my excuse. But let us know where you are so we can kind of get a sense. I'm seeing folks from other islands here, but so just take a moment and let us know in the chat where you are dialing in from. Victoria, Main Island, Caslo, Main Island, Taxada Island, Galiano Island, Gabriola, Victoria, Cortes. We got Main Island, Bowen Island. So we've got good representation. I think we got Burns Lake, Galiano. I think I might be the only Toronto, so that's my claim to fame on this call here. Okay, great. So we're going to see those continuing to come in. We've got Quadra Island Senior Society, Naramata, someone coming in from the Okanagan. I just want to acknowledge that on Cortes, we are working on the traditional and unceded territories of the Tla'amin, Clu'us, and Hamalko. And I'd like to thank you all for joining. I also really want to acknowledge and thank the Cortes Island Community Foundation, Gemma with Folk U, who is here and helping to facilitate. Hi, Gemma. And I want to thank the BC Rural Center, Sarah Sinclair. Thanks for helping to promote the event and introducing us to Salik. And I want to thank the Rural Islands Economic Partnership. That's REAP. Mike Cobles here. And Mike, thanks for all of your partnership on so many things housing related. And, you know, REAP has really helped to bring so many of the islands together that haven't really connected in the past around our housing interests. So really want to thank you for bringing us together and for the leadership. And I'm just going to paste in the chat here. If you want to know more about our events or get updates, please feel free to join the Cortes Island Housing Society email distribution list. There you are, Sarah. Thanks for joining. Great to see you. Okay, so I've been personally, I've been involved in modular housing for a good number of years. I was involved at the City of Vancouver. Oh, Elizabeth Anderson is on, who's our board chair. Welcome, Elizabeth. I didn't see you there. Thanks for joining. So I've been involved with modular housing from the City of Vancouver, like an urban kind of setting for a long time, and actually was involved with building thousands of units of modular housing. That was really intended to help people that are coming straight off the street and out of homelessness. It was a really successful program. We were able to build very quickly, very affordably and efficiently. And you know, so I'm now working in a more rural kind of environment, really interested to know how well the approach works in a remote, rural, or even in an island community setting. And there's obviously different challenges that you have with transportation, access, you know, just windy driveways, barging, So different kinds of challenges emerge for doing this kind of modular approach in a rural setting. And so that's what we wanted to talk about in this session, is to understand, how are some of these companies working? What are the different approaches, and how appropriate might they be for a more rural setting? So we're going to hear from 3 speakers, and really pick these 3 because they've got kind of different approaches, and so we can see how different they are, how they're similar, and have a chance to ask some questions and hear about their projects. So as they're speaking, please do feel free to type in questions in the chat, thoughts that you might be having that we can ask the other speakers to address, or ask them to answer afterward. We are recording today's session, and we will be making a podcast that will be put online, as well as played on CKTZ, our public radio station, and we'll also put the video version of this on Zoom, so we can go back and look at the photos and the videos that are shared today. So if you do not want to be included in any kind of recording, you should turn your camera off. And that's kind of that's the overview. So as we get kicked off, we had it's great to see in the chat there. Those of you that are just joining, feel free to tell us in the chat where you're dialing in from. We've got folks from throughout the region. And the next question I'd love to invite you to put in the chat is just, if you are considering building a home, like, are you participating in this because you're either part of a housing society that's looking to build housing, or you're on Cortes and you heard the zoning meeting this afternoon that they're going to be allowing 1 additional home on every property, and you're thinking, well, maybe I'll build a home. So let us know in the chat, are you currently considering building a home? That's the question to start the discussion on. So feel free to chime in on the chat, and then we're going to jump in with our presentations. We're going to hear from, as I said, 3 speakers, and I'll introduce them as we go. And Gemma will put their little information about them, and actually a link to their website, so you can kind of check out their websites while they're talking if you want. But our first speaker is Ken Sharp, and he's with Supermod. So if you're on Quadra or Cortes, you might have heard about them or seen their company. They're based in Campbell River. And Supermod is a modular builder that utilizes an innovative steel construction approach that really produces high performance, high quality, energy efficient homes. They're almost kind of printed in their factory. It's pretty neat, off of a computer. And they're all built in Campbell River. So nice to see a very, very hyper local company. And so Ken, I'm going to invite you to spend 10 minutes telling us about Supermod.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining. It's awesome. I can't see everybody, but I know there's a lot of people here. It's awesome to know that there's a lot of people interested in solving housing just in general, whether that be remote or anywhere out there. I think it's an important issue. I think everybody deserves to have a home. So I've got a little slide I can go through. I don't think people are here to listen to a sales thing, so I'm just going to kind of rip through it, explain what we do a little bit, go through a couple of things. But then I'm big on Q&A, so if people are here they probably have questions of their own that they can just jump in and we can work with that. So I'll just share the screen. I don't use Zoom very much, so yeah, I'll just go share screen. Oh, it says disabled share, host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Okay, maybe I need to make you co-host again. Give me 1 sec here.
Okay.
Okay, that should work.
Okay, share screen. Just go entire screen.
And we are okay with the sales pitch. We want to know about your what you are doing. So
okay, can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay, that's up right now. Okay. All right. Yeah. So I mean, the purpose of this is to provide those in need, attainable homes. I think the old way that you see low income housing and stuff like that, but just attainable housing. Housing that people can look and afford to use. That was something that we were pretty drawn into the modular space when we got into it. So generally, there we go. So generally, for us, scale, most modular builders will know this, that we kind of have a reasonably max width. We generally ship our modules 14 foot 5 inches. We can go up to 16 feet. We can go bigger. It just gets it's just not worth it. It's better to make some smaller modules. So right now, our kind of envelope that we build in has a width of 14 foot 5 inches. We build up to 13 feet high in our units, and length generally about 60. We can go longer or shorter, obviously, but that's kind of the envelope. But it doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to look like a container, and that's something we want to kind of talk about a little bit. So you can add shapes within the envelope, right? It doesn't always have to be square like a tube, like an extrusion. So we do try to add different shapes within that envelope size and different things to create these really, really unique designs, so that it doesn't have to look like a single wide or a double wide old school mobile home. It can look like a beautiful home we build within this envelope, but we can build multiple shapes and multiple sizes. We can cantilever things, we can offset things. So that's just one thing in modular that I think there's a lot of companies starting to do this now, is just to make it more architecturally interesting. It's not just a mobile home, so to speak, or that kind of shape. So ship from there. Okay, so stacking, we kind of just talked about that, where we do multi-story. Not every modular company does, but we do multi-story. So stacking and cantilevering, things like that. Okay, this is a project that we did down Island. God, it wasn't Parksville. Sorry, we've done quite a bit. So this was a really interesting project. So they came to us and said, "Hey, we want to put an ADU, and here's our lot, and here's all the setback requirements." So we, in the top middle there, you can see that once we added the setback requirements, we were like, "Man, this is a really weird shape." And down in the left corner, you can see that if we use standard size modules in quotes, we would be sticking way out past all of these, setback requirements. And in the middle was essentially using our envelope, but creating shapes within that is the two shapes we created. And then there's the home there. Here, I can show it to you here. So this is called the Prism home. So it fit, exactly, to within half an inch of all those setback requirements. And that's the interior there. So the one thing I like to push with modular is like, it doesn't need to be boring. It doesn't need to be extrusions all the time. It can look architecturally interesting. This is something I like to push out there, just because the background of it comes from trailers essentially. Okay, so the problem, housing shortage and high costs. I mean, I think we all know this. Like, land costs now incredibly high. Material costs, labor costs. I really would like to jump into my thoughts on pricing in modular, and I think that it's better in the question and answer area. So someone remind me. Let's talk about that. So modular construction is fast. So most of our projects in the factory, are in that like 8-week kind of time frame. 10-week if it's like big multi-story, kind of big. Then we can get into 10, 12 weeks, but 8 weeks is generally how long it takes us. We try to ship our modules like 95% complete. So we just did a 2-story out in Ucluelet a couple months ago, and it had the shower glass doors installed in our factory. And so when we shipped it and we stacked it, we opened it and walked inside. I mean, the kitchen was in, the shower glass doors were in. Our guys were only there for a week or 10 days. We were bolting some connections together from upper floor to lower and doing some drywall and things like that. But yeah, so that's modular can come in I like to say modular can be shipped out almost at rough end stage. It can be shipped out 95% complete. It's talking to your client and understanding the project and trying to fit the most efficient way within each project. So this is just a little bit of modular spending, fastest growing 10 billion by 2028. I'm going to send this slide out, or a bunch of these slides, so people can have them. So modulars in all shapes and sizes. So this is a project we did in Vancouver for Synthesis, is an architectural firm out of Vancouver. Again, kind of a modular. It doesn't look super modular. No pun intended. That doesn't look super like single wide or double wide. Their roof on the upper part, so if you look at the bottom right-hand slide, that roof we actually shipped separate. because we're like, look, the bottom was in 2 modules. We were 14 and a half. We were 14 foot 5 inches, and you're allowed to overhang on one side. So we kind of got this soffit detail on each side, and we're like, how do we ship this roof? Like, how do we do this? We really want this thing to have this like this look. And so we're like, let's just ship the roof in 2 different panels. And it was already all torched on. And so we shipped the 2 modules, and then the roof just went on after. It went on to a ceiling panel that was already peel and sticked, and then the roof was up torched on as well. So again, it got us this really unique kind of modular that you know that we like. Here's projects we've done, designed, shipped, built, or just designed for clients. So fairly wide reaching on some of these projects. So transportation. So some of you might recognize this one in the top right. So we actually just did one to Cortes. It's a 2-story 4-mod, very, very high end, all the finishes. I've got a little video I can show you guys of that one. So, you know, some challenges with barging, how you doing? We wrap all our units. The bottom left photo, that was going to Uculate. That was the upper floor of the 2-story. So the upper left one is the one that we just landed on Cortes Island. It's just getting finished right now. The upper right one is the one that went to Uculate. These are renderings. We do have photos around the slides. We just have the renderings. Obviously, you guys know about now, you know, that the density is changing, that we can have multiple units on single lots in Vancouver and the province. So for us, that's a big one. You know, people wanting ADUs, people wanting multiplex townhouses and things like that. So that's something we've been heavily looking into over the last 6 months as a company. It's just showing some of the other designs. This upper right is a staff housing accommodation. The bottom one is a project in Courtenay, and again, trying to you know, make things not look super modular, not make things look super modular like they used to be. This is an infill on Sunshine Coast. So one thing we tried to do, so this unit in the bottom right was actually a single unit that we shipped to Uculate. So when they called us and said, hey, we just want something, do you have any ideas you can quickly just give us if this is a lot that we want to buy? And we said, well, we can put units together, you know, to make, you know, so some of our single units then are designed to actually put together, offset or in a line so that you can create, you know, little townhouse developments and things like that. So that unit is 960 square feet, 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom. Thank you for taking the time to look at that. Okay, thanks guys. I'm just gonna show you this little video. This is on Cortes. It was a very complex plan. Cool. Well, there you go. That was that just got landed about, I think, 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago on Cortes.
All right, very cool. Anything else, Ken, or is that did that cover it?
Yeah, that covers it. I mean, I would love to chat obviously about costing and pricing and those things, but I think in just a Q&A, love to see the other companies and what they're doing, and we can, you know, chat about that.
Great, that sounds good. Do you want to stop sharing, and then we can go to the next panelists. So we will definitely. I saw a question come in on the chat on pricing, so we'll have a chance
Of
to
course.
have a round table with each of the panelists to dig in a little bit more on pricing.
Yeah.
And I saw the driveway that you all had to get that into, and that's a complicated driveway to drive your car in, let alone drive a large vehicle like that. So pretty impressive.
Insane.
Yeah. Okay. So a very different approach now. We're going to hear from Salik, who is going to show us a little bit about row housing, and again, a different kind of approach, very unique, I think, and quite appropriate for island communities, for folks that want to finish the interiors themselves, and also kind of a pretty striking approach too. So Salik, thanks for joining us, and just say a word or two, and Gemma can put the description and the website in the chat. Salik is Row, I should say. He is the Chief Experience Officer at Row Homes, and they build kit homes that can be delivered anywhere in Canada. They're easily transported, and they're lockup ready on site in a single day. So again, kind of a very cool approach, and you'll see information in the chat there. And Salik, I've made you co-host, so you can share your screen. And thanks again for joining us.
Thank you all. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me, Sadhu. And Ken, that's an awesome approach. I really think it's like, again, there's innovation in this space, and it keeps growing and growing. And I love to see that, because like we're all trying to crack the same nut, which is creating this housing affordability. So yeah, no, awesome presentation. So yeah, we're Row Homes. We started back in 2018. And before I begin, maybe one thing I can make clear to everyone: if you want to remember how to pronounce my name, think of Tom Selleck. That's the easiest reference, probably the best one, but that's the best way to remember.
Thank you. So it's Selleck.
Selleck, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. My name's Sadhu, so I get a lot of pronunciations that are a little off. So thank you for putting up with me.
Oh, no worries. All good. So Row Homes started back in 2018. Actually, my co-founder and chief executive officer, Rohan, he's on the call today.
Oh, hey, Rohan. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, so glad that he's here. So we started this back in 2018. We were trying to figure out a way to look at housing overall in terms of in urban environments as well as rural environments. I come from a background working with First Nations and small local governments. And what had happened was Rohan was on a trip to India where he had met with a lot of the housing ministers. And there, what had happened was they were taking a lot of the farmers, fishermen, people that were ground oriented, and moving them from the rural communities into the city to help densify and build more work capacity within the cities. But they were moving them into these high density kind of like projects, as we'll call them, like the projects in New York. So what would happen is that these people would sell off their little, apartment, maybe a 300 square foot apartment, go straight back to their rural community, and those spaces would be unoccupied. So it was just kind of a waste. So what had happened was he had designed a system where we can, instead of moving people into the city, figuring out a way to provide a housing solution out to them. And that's where the idea was born for a foldable structure. So what we do is we create a prefabricated foldable structure that's able to be shipped on a truck bed, taken on the ferry, barged in, and once delivered to site, it takes about 4 hours to erect. So what we saw, the big problem, and with my background working with some First Nations as well as small local governments, was that housing was always a concern. It always came up, and there was three things that always came in the way. It was always limited labor, the material availability. They didn't have materials ready on site, and then because of the traditional way of construction, you would have a step-by-step process, right, to go through to get to the end goal of completing a project. So what we did was we decided, hey, let's prefabricate a large portion of that in facility, but take some innovation, as in our foldable concept, and be able to ship it to those areas where it doesn't require a pilot car. It doesn't require any specialized permits. We're able to just put it onto a truck bed and transport it to a location. One other thing about the product as well is that it's somewhat, as we'll call it, configurable, not customizable. So we have ready-to-use walls with all the mechanical, plumbing, and electrical done, and those can be varied in the approach. Certain, I guess, benefits that come out of this is that we see that, you know, there's a reduction of the time on site by the laborers, so there's not that site disturbance. You're not making, you know, a huge ruckus on the property, and we only need 4 guys to actually assemble the home. So it's quite a reduction in the amount of labor to ship this product. Here's a video of our solution. So again, it's a 500 square foot space. It collapses to about a third of its size, about 200 square feet. And within this, we have all our mechanical, plumbing, electrical. We have our drywall boarded. We have our interior and exterior framing, as well as exterior insulation. Our roof components are there. So it's ready to be finished. And here's some examples of some finished products. So this was a home we did in Seashell. And that's the unit in its transport. Oh, I see someone's trying to get in. I'll admit them in. One other, just a couple of notes is that with modular construction, there's a certain certification that can be looked at when you have what's called CSA certification, or the Canadian Standards Association certification. That allows us to build within a facility, ship it to a location, and be approved typically by the municipality. So we of course meet that, as well as the Energy Step Code, which is a BC mandate for energy efficiency in homes. Some of the key benefits that we see, of course, transport, that being the number one. We see that as our added advantage where, for example, I'll show you later in the presentation, we had a home delivered to an area, a remote area, Lac La Hache, which is near Williams Lake. And with that home that we delivered, we actually had an F-350 truck bring it in. So it was, you know, these tight corridors where it's limited access. We have a solution that I think works for that. Again, minimal site disturbance. Because of our erection time, we're able just to ship it, install it, and have it set up within a day. Our production time right now is about 4 weeks for the smallest module, that 530 square foot unit. And the reason that we go for lockup instead of going for a fully end-to-end solution where we're finishing a home completely is because we want to keep jobs that are local to that region. So we partner with general contractors to work on the site services as well as the finishing work for our homes. So here are some configuration options that we've been designing with our product. So we have, you know, a small home, an independent 530 square foot space, or we can take 3 of those modules, connect them together, add some roof components, and create a townhome, or maybe a larger single family home where you take a various approach of different modules. And the applications could be, of course, single family. We can get all the way to multiplex, usually a 3 to 6 story maximum. We can do sort of ground oriented community builds where there's maybe a bunch of more like, I would say, like an upgraded version of a mobile home community, as well as emergency housing. And here's, just some various designs. So again, taking that initial 530 square foot product and accessorizing it, that's what we call it. So adding additional bedrooms, or adding a loft space, or adding or doubling the space, and adding a stacked configuration. So here's some variations of what we look at. This specifically, what you're seeing is examples of what we're doing for laneways or carriage homes. So allowing for either a rental property or for intergenerational living, having an in-law live there. Too quick. Some exciting news that happened last week is the BC Ministry of Housing had released their standardized design catalog, where they've shared a set of plans that will help expedite permitting through all municipalities in BC. What these are a set of modules similar to what we do that are pre-designed, and when configured together, they can create different spaces. So whether it's an accessory dwelling unit all the way to an 8-plex. And what you're seeing on the right side is different configurations that are combined. So you can take a Plan 1A with a Plan 2B, add a pitched roof, and now you have a laneway home or potentially a single family home. And then on the left side here, they show just the different configurations of these homes taking place. So the reason why I want to show this is relevant is because I see a future where now a lot of modular home builders can conform to these buildings, conform to these designs, and now can help expediting the permits, making it easier and faster for people to get a home. So going through what we have in our scope of work, for us, again, it's a lockup kit. So the idea behind it is that we'll prefabricate a kit that has all the essential construction done, but then there are separate fees that are worked through with a local general contractor or the municipality. So when a homeowner comes to us, we either take on their general contractor and work with them, or we find a general contractor nearby who will handle, again, all the site works. So things like the foundation, the excavation, the site utilities. We'll bring the home, we'll set it up, unfold it, and then the finishing work starts for the general contractor. So our first product that we introduced back in 2019, 2020 was our Lotus Mini. It's a 500 square foot, 1 bed, 1 bath. That was our first option. Then we did different configurations. So the Lotus Extra is a 2 bed, 1 bath, still ground oriented. The Lotus Stack is the Lotus Mini, again, with the loft space. So that's a two-story configuration. Again, some ground oriented units. So taking a couple of our Lotus Mini products and connecting them. So again, the core function of our business is to use standardized products, but to create unique looking homes. So these are just different variations of that existing 530 square foot home to create new products. Here's our latest product that we're looking to release, which is a carriage home. So this is a 1,000 square foot, 3 bed, 2 bath. And we see this as an opportunity where, especially looking at the Lower Mainland, there's a lot of eligible single family lots that are looking at a product that can help support, again, intergenerational living or support, paying off a family's mortgage. So we see this as an option where it fits on most standard 33 by 122 lots and can help be expedited because of the new standardized plans that have just been released. Some of our partners, just a quick overview of some of the people that we've worked with and have helped us on our journey. A big shout out to entrepreneurship at UBC. They've really helped us get to the point of where we're at right now. And yeah, we've been able to work with a few different affordable housing groups, including the Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society and Habitat for Humanity. So I wanted to talk about a specific example of a project that actually had that I felt created a lot of value. So we saw that in the district of Sechelt on the Sunshine Coast, that there was less than 1% rental availability as of April 2023. And so a lot of the essential healthcare workers that were there, they didn't have means to support themselves. There was grocery stores that were closing early because they didn't have enough staff. And a lot of seniors, I think, were dealing with a situation where they didn't have those support systems in place. The vibrancy of the city had kind of come down a little bit. So what we had looked at was developing a site feasibility tool where homeowners could go in, input their address, and right away find out whether or not their homes were eligible to place one of our units down. So here you're seeing kind of like a model of it. The idea behind this is that if we're helping the homeowners be educated on how quick and easy it can be through modular construction, understanding the financing, working with the different financial institutions, as well as the local contractors, we can help expedite housing and provide more units. And our first project actually that we did back in 2021, sorry, was in Seashelt, and it was for a client who wanted to house essential healthcare workers. So the lady that you're seeing on the right side, that's Wendy. She had lived in our units while I think she spent 6 months looking for housing, but a 1 bed, 1 bath, 530 square foot home had helped her out, and so this is just a model where if people are willing to utilize that space, we're able to provide more housing and more solutions to the local community. Here's again, yeah, some of our delivered projects. So Lac La Hache, where we brought the home in on with an F-350. The Seashell project. So we had this unit as well as the unit down here. They were both part of the same project. And then we've also done a unique project, which was for First Nations near Campbell River, which was a single family lot. We had removed the existing language center that was there and provided 4 650 square foot, 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom units, kind of like as I would call it, kind of like an eco community. So we see this as kind of a new opportunity. I feel like I'm going over my time, so I'm just going to finish up. So yeah, just to wrap up, what's next for us? We're going to be designing our products to, again, be aligned with those pre-approval or standardized plans released from the BC government. We're also looking at large-scale design. So you're seeing in the bottom right an 8-plex design utilizing our system. Sadhu, you had mentioned at the beginning that we're looking at shipping anywhere in Canada. And the way we're doing that is we've worked on developing a northern ready product. So integrating different insulation products that will help us work in those northern communities, including Nunavut and Yukon. And the last one is that we're looking at a self-sustainable off-grid version of our home. So integrating solar panels, compostable toilets. So now there's other options available for people that want to go off-grid. I think that's it. Yeah. So if you guys have any questions, here's my email address and phone number, and I can share this presentation after.
That's great. Thanks. We've got some questions in the chat that we'll hit on later about building materials and passive house. So great to see those coming in. And thanks so much, Salik. And really interesting kind of contrast to the first presentation. And good to see how well it fits in both of them in a rural setting. So our last presenter, Michelle, is here and is with Kiwi Living. Michelle, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Sorry, just
great. Wonderful.
Slow internet over here right now on Bowen.
Okay. All right. I'm going to make you, I think you're already a co-host.
So it doesn't seem like I can share my screen.
Okay. I'm going to try again.
Okay.
So let's try that.
Still, that's bizarre.
Do you want to send me the presentation and I can share it? So that would be easier.
I can.
Okay, great. Well, while you're doing that, I'll just introduce you. Michelle Mazzotta is with Viva Kiwi. She's the CEO and head of partnerships. And she's got 2 decades of experience working in the construction industry, from tiling to founding her own new home construction company, Kiwi Innovation. And her goal has been to find the most energy efficient and health-focused systems and materials to build resilient, healthy homes. And that's what led her to this panelized home model. So a little bit different than the 2 examples that we've already seen. And it gives her the ability to create in a controlled environment with pre-selected premium materials, panelized homes, and offer the utmost health standards and quality construction. So again, built in a factory in a panelized format. So I took that off your LinkedIn page. Hope that's all still accurate, Michelle. And
it's all good, yes.
Okay, good. I'm just going to make sure that I got your PowerPoint in.
So while we're waiting for all that to happen, I can sort of, just first say thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to see all of the innovation that's happening and all of the different ways that people are finding solutions to make housing more affordable, more attainable, and more sustainable. It's really, really cool to listen to the two previous presentations for sure.
And I've got your presentation, so I'm going to share my screen then, and you just tell me
Excellent,
tell me when you want me to change the slides.
All right.
Okay. Can you see that?
I can, yes.
Okay.
There we go.
So just tell me when you want me to change.
All right, sounds great. So yeah, just to give you guys a sort of synopsis of how Kiwi started. We actually started our company first thinking that we were going to just sort of consult homeowners on how they can make their homes more sustainable, what they can do in the renovation process. And it was through giving seminars and educating people here on Bowen Island on different ways that they can approach the building industry that we had a client approach us and say, "You're going to build our house." And we said, "Well, we can't because we don't have a builder's license." And so they sort of pushed us to go, "We really like your ethos. We really like what it is that you guys talk about." And this was many years ago now. And we ended up getting our builder's license sort of fostered on an older builder on Bowen, and we built them their first house. What we saw in doing that is we sort of proved to ourselves that we can do it. And we saw a panelized system at that time with a different panel provider and the efficiency of doing panels. So we've now since decided that we're going to go a separate route and start building panels because it's what we're most passionate about, being able to use sustainable, resilient materials, and it expedites build times, shortens labor cost, and sort of brings it to the public in a more accessible way. You can switch to the next one there, Sadhu.
Should I keep going?
Sort of,
just tell me when you want me to flip.
Yeah, go ahead. One of our most exciting recent things that we've done is we've started taking it to the next level with forging partnerships with other people out there that are doing similar things to us, but in a different manner. So one of the most exciting ones recently was our partnership with Vima Deconstruction. So currently we're building our panels with new lumber, and our partnership that we forged with Vima Deconstruction has now allowed us to go, okay, we can take deconstructed homes and material and lumber from deconstructed homes and reconstruct them in our panels, sort of adding to the whole end of life cycle of everything and saving all of that sort of demolition material or what would otherwise be demolition material from the landfill. Can switch. So this is sort of what our panel is made up of. So on and this will end up coming to the house or to the build site and ready for lockup. And most of our builds, depending on size, are ready in about 2 to 3 days, fully erected and ready to lock up. So we've got on the exterior here, we've got the exterior rain screen, the wood fiberboard insulation. We've got the 2x8 framing filled in with the blown-in cellulose, and then the interior utility channel. Now, in our partnership with Vima Deconstruction, we went, okay, well, while this system is fantastic and gives us the R40 value in our walls, we've had the challenge, which was sort of a neat challenge of going, okay, well, most deconstructed homes are providing us with a whole bunch of 2x4s for lumber. So if we go to the next slide, sort of changing, and this is sort of like just sort of preliminary, but changing using where we had the 2x8s before, we now are going, okay, well, actually we can improve it by using the 2x4 deconstructed lumber and reclaimed, and we actually lose our thermal bridging gaps, but we sort of learned that, okay, that's not our strongest point, having those thermal bridging gaps and being able to sort of get rid of them. So overall making a more efficient panel and using the reclaimed wood. You can go to the next slide. Another thing, as we were going through the process, we realized, okay, with building costs becoming more and more expensive, how is it that we can sort of streamline the process for people? So we made our models here, we've got a few different ones. One that we've done on Savory Island, which is the birch, and our most popular is the A-frame with the Sitka. So this is essentially, these aren't limited to what it is that we can, all that we can do. We just wanted to say, okay, here are panel ready homes that are already engineered, ready to go for anybody who wants to grab them. And it sort of becomes a one-stop shop. You've got your architect, you've got your design, and you've got your panels and GC all in one place. Next slide. Okay, and this is sort of why we wanted to get into the whole thing as well from the environmental standpoint. Key features of our panels, they're built to step code 5 ready, pre-insulated, net zero, energy efficient, healthier materials, quick to assemble, reduces labor costs up to 40%. And also with everything being done in a prefab facility, it massively reduces waste. And then transportation is less as well as the greenhouse gas emissions. And we can go to the next one. And yeah, so these are just sort of samples of the ones that we've built already. This one was done on Savory Island. Building prefab always gives you a lot of opportunity for remote access, similar to the other two as well, just being able to transport it easier and have it there and ready to go. And these are just the next few slides you can sort of go through quickly, Sidhu. These are just our different models here. Go ahead. Yeah, those are just sort of showing the models that we've done. And then of course we can do any design that people are looking for as well. So we can take an architectural set and convert it into our panels. And this one we sort of went to over the beginning. Duplicate slide in there. Go ahead. And this is just sort of talking about the overall R value of our panels as well. So our R value in the walls is 40 and the R value in the ceilings is 60. This is just sort of showing our panel fastening system as well. We've come up with a system that when we were thinking about, okay, well, what's going to set us apart? And it's the quick assembly process. So being able to have us in there. Oh, actually, could you go to the next slide there, Sidhu? Perfect. Yeah, when we came up with the system with the French cleats, just sort of thinking, okay, when we were first doing panels, we would use an interior vapor barrier called IntelliWrap. And while it's a fantastic product, we were realizing, okay, well, with the blown-in cellulose, we've got the issue of losing some of the overall compression if we have the vapor barrier not being a rigid board. So we sort of switched it over to plywood on the interior. And then it also makes the French cleat system work and have the panels go together super tight and well. Next one. Oh, go ahead. And that's just more about our panel fastening system. Yeah, and then I know that you guys wanted to hear a little bit about cost as well. Our whole goal being able to make things more attainable for the building industry. And it breaks out to be about $25 per panel square foot, which translates to about $200,000 for a 2,000 square foot home. Just sort of a simple basic idea of it there. Next one. All right, so the remote building, nature of the Kiwi prefab panels has allowed us to specialize in remote builds, building panels offsite and shipping them to many house-owned islands. Large density projects. The nice thing about the way our shop is set up too is that while we have our office here, our shop here on Bowen, it's sort of quite basic, 2 shipping containers in a tent. And if it was a larger project that we needed to service, we could do a satellite in a different area as well. Go ahead. Yeah, and that's sort of just how you can contact us and where to find Kiwi.
Fabulous. Thank you. Great. Okay. 3 fascinating and different approaches to modular. So what a great range of projects. We've gotten a few questions, and I've got a few myself. So I'm going to take the floor here. I'm really interested around energy efficiency. I've kind of heard that generally, because you're building in a factory, the homes can be a lot more energy efficient because you've just got a little bit more precision in the way that you build. So, and Michelle, you were talking about this, but I guess you all hit on it a little bit. But talk about energy efficiency. Really, kind of interested to understand how you compare to a stick built on site generally. And why don't we, Michelle, do you want to start?
Sure, absolutely. I would say one of the main areas where prefab and probably modular as well can sort of do a little better in that area is one of the biggest areas for thermal breaks, or say, for example, in a plumbing or any of the MEP techs come in and they go, okay, we've got to drill a hole through your envelope. And then right there, you've got sort of a weak point for your energy efficiency. And when you're doing it in a shop and in a factory, that can all sort of be sealed up and pre-thought of ahead of time. So you end up with less thermal breaks overall in your envelope.
Ken or Salik?
Yeah, I'll just mention that, like, with modular and our approach, I think the one thing that sticks out to me is that we try to involve an energy advisor right away and look at how we can create a product or pre-design a product. Because as you probably noticed with my presentation, we're really focused on standardization. So offering a product that's maybe a less customized approach, but definitely more in line with, here's, the minimum set of standards that we want to set. So, we want to meet the step code 4 with our solution right now, and then eventually with the step code 5. So I think it's important to think about how modular just does that pre-design and thinking ahead, which plays a vital role in many of the approaches when it comes to construction.
Ken? Oh, you're muted. Always got to do that. Always got to do that at least once.
My wife is yelling at me. It's a good thing. I actually think it's harder to build energy efficient homes modular. I think it's the other way. It's mainly air tightness. Sometimes I just dream about stick framing again. But anyway, so at the end of the day, you're building these modules. We can't do a as Sadhu was saying, who was I supposed to remember again? Salik.
You got it, yeah. Tom. Call me Tom too. It's all good.
So for us, it's actually, I think, probably one of the most complex things is the thermal bridging, the air tightness in the modular space. It's the thing that's always a challenge. We have an energy advisor that'll obviously look at our stuff. Step 4 for us is our kind of base that goes out. But when we get to the other side and we do the blow door test, sometimes in modular, especially multi-story stuff, it is very, very, very challenging. We've done okay, but I actually think it's harder. We just end up doing more work, more planning, which isn't a bad thing, to take 4 modules, put them, build them in a factory, move them, put them together, and then make them airtight again. Right? It's quite complex. So I think it's kind of the other way around. Building in a factory keeps it dry, and a million other things that are awesome, but that's actually one thing that's quite complex in modular is the air tightness and the energy standards.
One of the questions that came in on the chat was whether you were able to do passive house. And if people that aren't familiar, passive house are really, really, really energy efficient homes. You can almost use the waste heat from your hot water tank to heat your house on a passive house. Are any of the 3 of you doing passive house certified homes?
We haven't, but we could. I mean, for us, it just comes down to the architect, the engineering, the building science around how to do it. But so step 4 is our right now what is what we've done.
Okay.
Our standard.
Okay. Salik?
I think we're a bit controversial, but passive, I think, is a little bit too, like, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of funds to get there. So it's not an area of priority for us right now, mostly because of the fact that our customers aren't asking for it. But if there is an opportunity for that, we would love to design a structure for that. We haven't taken it as an approach that is going to be consistent with what we're doing with everything else in the product.
Okay. Michelle?
We haven't done one that has been certified passive as of yet, but they do have passive performance.
Great. One of the things, thanks. One of the things about if you're building a stick home and you're building it yourself, you kind of control the materials. And a lot of people are sensitive to chemicals and they may not even know it, like the formaldehydes and glues and chipboard, that kind of thing. And I guess I'm kind of interested to hear from each of you around indoor air quality and selection of materials, and whether you're able to, or whether you already do, kind of really think about indoor air quality and able to use materials that really produce good indoor air quality. Anyone, any of you can jump in.
Just starting with our structure, I would say, like, our base structure, we always include an energy recovery ventilation system. So it's constantly refreshing the air. Being an airtight, smaller box solution, we want to make sure that the air is fresh and consistent. So that's one way we're looking at air quality. And the other thing is that we're now looking at alternative products that we can use within our panel system to help reduce the off-gassing, as well as like the carbon emissions when they're prefabricated. So looking at wood fiber, looking at different solutions is what we'd like to explore right now. But yeah, as a core function, I would say it's our energy recovery ventilation system.
Okay. Any, Ken, I mean, you're using metal, so there's not really off-gassing there, but anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think the new code changes are addressing that with HRV systems, making homes more airtight, more healthy. I think that's important. I think it's good. I think the province has done a good job on that. I think everybody in the panel here, building inside, not having moisture kind of get into your studs or your sheathing or anything like that, I think is helping with the moisture and mold. We build it a fully steel, so our stuff doesn't mold at all. We've got we sheathe right now out of plywood, but we're working with a product right now, getting some testing done. And when we move to it, the house will be fully non-combustible. There won't be one thing that in the actual home that's combustible. So, the steel framing, the non-combustible sheathing, and then we use rock wool and drywall inside. There's just nothing. The furniture would burn, if the fire got in, if it was that big of a deal. But yeah, so we're kind of heading into that direction where it's like nothing that would propagate mold or anything like that in our units. And I think these other guys building indoors, they're getting the same benefits to some degree with the wood. That's just not getting wet,
Yeah, great. Thanks. Yeah, the fire resilience, I think, feels even more important nowadays. I'm on the board of the fire department on Cortes, and we're thinking a lot about fires. So building fire smart is a critical part of being resilient in your home. Michelle, anything you want to say about indoor air quality and building material selection?
Absolutely. Yeah. While the HRV system to bring in and ventilate fresh air is absolutely helpful and important, I think, and we definitely focus on using materials that are healthy for human beings to breathe in. And we think about it right from the beginning for our workers that are assembling the products all the way to the end users and the homeowners. So all of our materials sort of are completely inert. One of the great things about the wood fiber board, though, as well, is that it's got quite a high fire resistance. And it seems counterintuitive that wood would have a high fire resistance, but the way it's sort of compressed and made, it performs well against flames, which is great.
Okay, thanks a lot. Great.
Yeah.
So let's talk about price. This is kind of a couple people have put it in the chat, and a couple of you addressed it. But it's when someone asks you how much does something cost, it kind of like, well, what are you buying and where are you buying it? So I know it's hard to compare, but I guess if you had a client come to you and say, I want to build a 600 square foot modest cabin or a small home, 1 or 2 bedrooms, and I want to be cost conscious. What what's the pricing look like? You know, I'm just kind of trying to create like a apples to apples comparison here. And I guess I'm, you know, not necessarily comparing your 3 products to each other, but your 3 products to the alternative, which is shipping materials to our rural communities, finding people that are prepared to build it, and, you know, all that kind of thing. We've heard really loud and clear from you tonight that there's a major benefit in the speed of getting a building to lock up, and the speed of like a lot less time spent on site assembling, which is great if you're bringing workers in on a ferry and stuff. But talk, just, you know, kind of map it out for us kind of generally price wise, either like a modest house per square foot cost or a modest kind of 600 square foot home built, you know, to the best of your ability to kind of how you might compare with a stick built. And who wants to go first? Ken, you want to?
I can go, yeah. So we've got a development in Campbell River, Sitka Landing, funny enough. It's 64 homes. Those units are in the 250 to 300 square foot range. That's just the home. That's just the modular home, and then the foundation or site works would be on top of that. But
So
we've done homes. Go ahead.
About $250 per square foot for the finished product.
That's fully finished, and
Okay.
so we start at kind of mid grade, so we don't do I don't know, the crappy countertops and things like that. So our mid range stuff is like quartz countertops, HRV systems, all metal, standing seam roofing. It's fairly high end or mid range to high end stuff, and that is about 250 to 300 a square foot, complete with your appliance packages and things like that. But we've done stuff that's 500 and 800 a square foot. You know, I like to say, how much is a bag of groceries? You know, it's what's in the bag. Are you shopping at Whole Foods? Are you shopping at Walmart? So sorry.
Yeah, but that gives us a pretty that's a pretty good kind of sense of what it might cost. And Ken, would that include the transportation and the foundation, or is that's the building kind of coming out the door of your factory, and then people need to pay for transportation and a foundation and on their own?
Yeah, and that varies. It's less than people think. You know, people, oh well, I still got to do all this, and we manage that stuff and do it, but it's just it's the fixed cost part of our business is in the factory. You know, where we sit down, we do a fixed price because it's in the factory and it's easy for us to do that. So that's why I can give a fixed cost, on the site works. We generally do cost plus on the site works. And they're not as crazy as people think. I do want to just address one thing. I've done a couple of these forums. I've never done a Zoom one. I find it I'm talking to my computer, my TV. I work off people, I need the energy, but we just did a couple in Vancouver and there was quite a few people there. And I'm pretty passionate about this point is like, everybody comes up to us and says, price, modular is cheaper. I'm like, we do not go to market on price, go to market on value and a few different things like that. And I want to be very clear with people that, in my opinion, we buy the same material everybody else buys. There's not a secret modular home building supply store that we get to go into and buy stuff cheaper than anybody else. We still, us personally, we hired sub trades to come in and do electrical work and plumbing work. We pay them the same, but the speed is where the cost savings, and it's in a different column. So when we talk about, when someone says, what's the cost of your building? I really want to say, like, you have to look at the whole project. Now, some people, if you have cash and you're just buying this cash, that might not be so relevant to you. But we deal with a lot of developers. We're doing some bigger developments. We're doing multifamily stuff. And the carrying cost of building these days is massive. The development Sitka, the carrying cost, it's been delayed by about a year with the city, some couple of different things. And the carrying cost for development is huge at that point. So if you're stick framing your carrying costs, if you're doing a multifamily development or house and it takes a year or 10 months to build the house or longer for multifamily, we can cut that to a third, essentially. So the cost savings is in a totally different column for most of our customers, which is like the carrying costs to build were less, the carrying costs on the land were less, the borrowing costs were less. But if they just look at a stick frame house in our house and they go, oh, you guys are the same price, the cost savings, in my opinion, in modular, the big savings is on that time.
Great.
We're buying some stuff. Anyway, that was just my little rant, because it's just, you can't just look at the house and two houses,
I'd like to see the rant in person, but you did great on Zoom too. So that medium is working for you. Either of the other panelists want to jump in on costs, like kind of give us a general sense or any other feedback?
There's a lot of what Ken has already said that quite a bit echoes. So the area where Kiwi does fixed costs is also all of our shop portion, and then the rest is cost plus. But it's very true. The cost savings is absolutely in the amount of time that it takes, and the difference there for clients. So instead of, from start to finish, I've seen a lot of clients on Bowen Island over 1.5 years to build traditionally. Whereas we can build, from start to finish, foundation including, and all of that, you're looking at about a 4-month time span. So that's sort of where those efficiencies in cost and budget come in.
Right.
And then to give an example of sort of price points that we're at, we have finished homes anywhere from 300 a square foot to about 800 a square foot. So it does vary. But our panels themselves, as sort of mentioned in the slide, work out to be about $25 per panel square foot.
Great, thanks. Salik, anything you want to add to that?
Yep, definitely. So, we're not a large scale operation right now, and that's part of the reason I would say our pricing is a slight bit higher than other modular. But the way I look at it is that we are looking at price certainty, right? Again, it comes down to the product before it ships to a location. But with this rapid assembly process that we have, where it only takes a set of hours, we're only having our trades there for 1 to 2 days. And when we're thinking about per diems, accommodations, everything else up and above that, that's where the variability begins, like Ken had mentioned. But for us, the price for, let's say, a 600 square foot 2-bed 1-bath would be about 140,000 for our lockup kit. So that kind of gives you a range of what the price is just for the kit, plus the site works and finishing. That can of course range. If it's with a standard set of appliances, you're looking at probably around 230 to 250,000. So that's the way that we would price it out.
Great, thanks. I appreciate the nuance to all of that. Ken?
I have one more sub rant to my first rant.
Oh, good. Yeah, sub rant. Go for it.
And that is just because I don't know how many people are on this because I only see you. But the one other thing just to mention to clients, possibly future clients out there for some of us, is that as you make a smaller unit, your square foot cost goes up. And it's just not something I think is talked about quite a bit. So, when we're talking about 250 or 300 square foot or 4 or 5, generally for us personally, it's like 1,200, 2,000 or bigger. If somebody wants a smaller unit, like a 500, 600, that square foot cost will absolutely go up. You're using all the same systems. You're still doing an HRV. You still got to, open a project and get your team together and all that stuff for a small square footage.
Yeah.
Just a little thing there. Because people say all the time, oh, well, how come this house is only 220 a square foot? And I'm like, well, it's 2,600 square feet. It's a big house,
Right. Yeah, very good point. Yeah. Sometimes people think, oh, tiny homes are so much cheaper. When you look at the per square foot cost, it's actually quite high. So I appreciate the nuance there. The sub rant was worth it. Thank you very much. Bill Weaver asked, what's the oldest assembled unit that each of you have done, and any lessons learned from that? I'm just gonna riff off that question. I did a tour a couple weeks ago of community housing, some amazing community land trust housing on Lopez and Orcas Island. I went and toured a bunch of these projects, and some of the projects that they built were 30, 35 years old. And so it was really interesting to see how those projects have aged with the bigger trees and, just seeing how those communities have evolved. And it's just so interesting to see what something looks like later down the road. So kind of curious to see if any of you, I know, Salik, you said you guys just did your first project a couple of years ago. So, but yeah, I mean, any finished product that you've gone back to look at and lessons learned from it, any of you?
I can
all of us.
Everyone started at once.
Okay, Salik, you go first.
Yeah, because I'm probably I don't know, maybe the youngest. Yeah, we delivered product back in 2021, and that was that C Shop project that I showed in the presentation. With that one, what I think the biggest learned lesson was to figure out where we fit within the construction process. You know, when we first started our company, we were both a general contractor as well as the modular manufacturer. We were an all-in-one, one-stop shop solution, and I think, you know, in some ways, it's very, very important to distinctly figure out what that niche is. And we shifted towards being a modular manufacturer. The challenges that we faced was really, you know, with the capacity of our workers. What we were doing is we're manufacturing the homes, then we're shipping our guys out. They're spending, you know, a couple weeks there finishing the product, doing everything else, and now the manufacturing has stopped in facility. So it's just about, I think for us, was what are our strengths? What do we really want to focus on and provide value in? So again, creating the lockup kit where we're honing in on exactly what we do, and we're allowing an opportunity now for the homeowner to bring on their own builder and provide those finishing details, provide, you know, maybe a more entry level finish or maybe a luxury custom finish. So there's that approach, and so that's our learning lesson.
Yeah, I think the other thing, just to add to that, and we've got a lot of people on Cortes, and I think in our rural communities generally that are pretty hands-on and like to do stuff themselves. So there's an opportunity, it feels like with your model, that people could then build out the interior, do the exterior work themselves. Like there's really more opportunities for DIY. You know, that was one of the things, again, I when I was touring these projects on Orcas Island, or Lopez Island, actually, the future occupants of the homes and the land trusts are expected to put in hours and help build the homes themselves. This model fits that perfectly because doing the siding, the interior finishes, there's a lot of room for people that are learning still to contribute in a meaningful way to finishing the house. So that's I think a nice tie in there. Michelle, did you or any either kind of any comments? And we can't see you anymore, Michelle. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, but
No, there we go.
There we go. Okay, great.
There you
Yep,
go.
you're back. Okay. Any other comments to this question from either of you?
Yeah, I mean, our oldest build as Kiwi is only 2019, so we haven't seen too much grow around it other than the kids that occupied it turning into teenagers. But
that's probably as scary as seeing the house age.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But overall, our desire when we're building our homes, one of the first things I heard sort of entering the construction industry in Vancouver was a home should last 50 years. And we just sort of shook our heads and went, well, that's ridiculous. 50 years is nowhere near long enough. So trying to build resilient, robust, and homes that can last generations.
Nice. Thanks. Ken, anything on this point before we move on?
We've all been around for about the same amount of time. I think 2019 for us. We did prefab before we were modular. So with the steel framing, we were selling framing packages to builders. So we were kind of slowly creeped into the industry. So we were doing framing packages for builders for mostly high-end homes. And then a developer up in Camp River that had that bigger site was like, hey, you know, you guys should do modular. And so we kind of got into modular space. Our background is in, so the founders, me and Anthony, our background is in design. So we had a firm in Vancouver that designed patented architectural products for 12 years. So we were really heavily into the design portion of products, cladding systems, thermal systems, stair systems, all kinds of things. We had a firm, and so we would design them, patent them, go to market with them. We had distribution channels in the US and Canada. So we kind of came, I just said that a little bit because we came into the construction industry with a bit of a different think on things. You know, we didn't kind of come from a developer construction background, which we had, but we brought our Anenda Systems, which was the company background in, which was just you know, yeah, a lot of designing, a lot of thinking about what you're doing, a lot of thinking from production, not from, oh, but this is just how we've always built. This is how we've always framed things.
So, yeah, thanks. I'm just going to, building off of that point, Ken, someone asked a question here, just like, what's the lead time? Like if someone wants to work with one of your companies, they call you up. How long, if they kind of are, more or less motivated and ready to go, what's the lead time to get a project done? Why don't we go, Ken, I'll call on you first.
That's a million-dollar question. It changes all the time. We just moved factories, so that's a tough one for me to say. We were we just moved, so we kind of like wound down. We're winding up right now, so we're a little bit open right now. We've got about 4 or 5 builds in front of us, and then we've got Sitka Landing one. But in the other factory, we were a year.
Okay, so that's so someone that wants to build, if they want you to build for them, it's 6 months to a year of
It was. That's why I said
lining
it's
up.
a bit,
Okay.
It was. That's why I
Okay.
said it's a bit. We just moved to this new factory, so I was trying to get.
Oh,
get
so
you right
someone could sneak in now.
we
While,
got a couple
okay.
builds. We got 3 builds in there right
Okay.
now, and then Sitka stuff. Yeah.
Okay, Michelle Salik.
So we've got two builds right now that are scheduled, but because we actually also just went through a transitionary period where we were predominantly, yes, we were building panelized homes, but they were custom panelized homes, and now we've sort of switched to wanting to just work with GCs on Bowen and focus on just providing panels. So we have space. We would welcome it.
Great.
Yeah,
Salik?
so, about 3 month lead time.
3. Okay, great.
Yeah, so again, we're all moving, it sounds like. So yeah, we're looking to move as well. We recently just closed our alpha factory and moving to a beta factory. The lead time of the previous factory was about 6 to 8 weeks for the product itself. Now, there's a disclaimer here. The disclaimer is, we have to have all the materials on site. The permits have to be approved. There is that whole lead time prior to all of that. But once materials and everything's on site, we're now looking at between a 4 to 6 week lead time for a 530 square foot unit.
Okay.
So yeah,
Cool.
with that smaller space, we're able to do that.
Thanks. That's great. Someone put a question in the chat here, and we're going to start to wrap up now. We've got 43 people still on, so you guys are hardcore, sticking in there into the evening. We're going to start to wrap up, and so maybe each of our panelists can start to think about your kind of closing comments. But a number of us that are on, that are still on, are with housing societies or involved in organizations that want to build more project, more than one unit. On Cortes, we're trying to build a 24 unit townhome project. And, we want it to be as, attainable, affordable as possible. And, so I guess the question that Aaron put on there that I wanted to kind of start to use to start to wrap us up, like what do you all recommend for rural organizations that want to help solve the housing challenges for their community members? Like what would help prepare or make things more cost efficient for future projects? And I'm thinking Cortes, like the zoning is about to change, which will enable people on the island to build another ADU outright. And so I'm thinking as a society, if we were to bulk buy and arrange for members in our community to say, these are the 3 models and I want that one, and we have a partnership with someone that does the financing, or so I guess, what are the things that you think we can be doing as community leaders, community organizations, folks that are on the boards of these organizations to help make it more efficient and cost effective to build in our rural communities? And maybe I'll start with Salik and then go to Michelle and then Ken.
Sadhu, you hit a lot of points, which is like exactly what we're trying to do with the business model that we created in the Sunshine Coast. So it is, working with the community members, whether it be, the affordable housing societies, the financiers. So, we also had met with the Sunshine Coast Credit Union. We had met with local general contractors, community members, Chamber of Commerce. We try to hit everyone to inform them of, these types of solutions, about modular, about the benefits of modular. When you start to get these different parties involved and you start to, in some ways, lobby for you, find the systems, find the processes, especially when it comes to the financing, and the support systems for modular, that's where I think it can all come together. So that's what I would recommend, is really
Okay.
looking at how partnerships and community-based development takes place. It's really through working alongside each other.
Great. Okay, thanks. Michelle?
Something you had mentioned as well to do is really just streamlining. So you said order in bulk. And that sort of turned a light on in my head when you had mentioned that as well. So for example, if you were looking for something like a 24 house project, just being able to be like, okay, it's very similar to what the city of Vancouver has just done. It's like, okay, how can we simplify all of the plans? What can we do on that sort of level? So if you were to order it in bulk, and then also there's certain things to also, when you're getting involved with the whole community, look at certain grants, what's available with energy efficiency. Those things can help bring costs down. And then also, when I was sort of thinking about the Cortes project and how we would approach something like that, as well as going, okay, well, we have an office that's or a shop that's able to sort of move and transport, which would get rid of shipping costs, which is always a bit of an issue on more rural areas as well.
Thanks. Ken?
Yeah, those are great points. Awesome, guys. Yeah, pre-designed homes, off the shelf, bulk, that kind of stuff. You're keeping your design costs down, engineering down, things like that. Time and planning obviously comes, way down with something like that. Financing, it's huge. I mean, I don't know who's listening on this, but for us, like screaming from the rooftops that modular companies are fighting with one hand behind our back. But everybody's yelling, "Oh, modular's great," from the rooftops. We need more modular. It's part of the solution. But we get zero help when it comes from financing our banks. We build in a factory. They won't do any. Banks or credit unions so far have not stepped in to do construction financing in factories. They want it to be on a foundation.
Oh, interesting.
So we're kind of fighting. Yeah, so we're kind of fighting with our one hand behind our back. Feels like a lot of times on these projects, whether us personally, if we're going up against a stick frame company, we're a much harder financial sometimes pill to swallow, even though people want to, because for us, we take deposit before we start building. We take almost the rest of the payment before we ship it out. Things like that. It's more of a product at that point. So if anybody's listening, yeah, I think government needs to step in and understand. I don't know, try to help address it. It's really on that 64 unit development. It's been really, 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 really challenging.
Interesting. Okay. Very, very, very
and
interesting.
that would bring costs down. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
It's
Michelle.
It's interesting to hear that. Maybe Ken, we can take it aside too, because I would love to see if there's a way that I could help out with that as well. Because I've actually had quite a bit of success with financial institutions because we offer fixed price for our panels. Mm-hmm. Sort of getting people, and it's still a work in progress, but being able to get homeowners sort of into when they're buying land, as opposed to needing to put, the minimum of 35, but in most cases 50% down, because we offer that prefixed cost all the way to lockup, which is sort of that second stage of where construction financing will come in. I've had quite a bit of success with some financial institutions in looking at us a little bit differently and allowing people to do less than 35% down on the lot. So they sort of have that package together of the prefab finished home already.
Good. Yeah, I'm going to let you guys take that offline, because that sounds like that sounds like a fruitful conversation. Those of you that are still in front of your keyboards and want to, I'm curious, because I'm thinking about for Cortes, is modular a good approach for us? I see Mark Lombard here, who's a builder and built many homes on Cortes and elsewhere. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts later. Like, is this a good solution for our community? And so maybe people in the chat, now that you've had a chance to learn about these different approaches, do you think modular is right for your rural community? I'm really interested to talk more about how it might work for us on Cortes, and just anyone that's feels like throwing into the chat. Yes, this seems right. No, I still have questions. Feel free to jump in. For Cortes perspective, I think it's definitely something I want to explore. Bill is saying yes. And Gabrielle is saying, yep, could be part of the solution. So it sounds like others saying, yep. Ken and Salik and Michelle, you're Your job's well done here. You've convinced some people. I'm seeing that in the chat, everyone's pretty much saying, yeah, this could be fruitful for us to explore further. So I definitely look forward to following up with you all as we explore our options on Cortes. And really just want to say thank you so much for taking your evening to be with us. You know, you're building, each of you are building small businesses and have all of the challenges that come with building a small business. And you've chosen to spend an hour and a half of your time with us and preparing your presentations. And so I just really want to say thank you for what you're doing and spending your time to share with us tonight. There's some great comments coming in the chat too. So we will be producing a little YouTube video, and Emma will be helping with a little podcast, and we'll share that with you. And I just want to say to all of you for being on tonight. Thanks for taking your time with us, and for having so many island communities represented. It's really great that we get together and share experiences like this. So I do want to thank Eitan. You've got your baby. Oh my God. Yeah, that's so exciting. Eitan just had a baby. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Wow. Very exciting. Oh my gosh. Wow. First time meeting on Zoom. That's great. Thanks for joining, Eitan. And to everyone else, thanks for being a part of this, and to our speakers in particular, thanks for taking your time with us. And to Gemma and Folk University, thanks for the partnership. So I think we're ready to sign off. Over and out, everybody. Thanks. Have a great evening.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Yeah, take care, guys.
Take care.
Thanks very much.
All right. Thank you. Bye, Martha.
Bye.
Hey, congrats, Eitan. Very exciting.
Yes.
Look forward to meeting.
Yeah, well, and during this meeting, he managed to poo outside of his diaper all over me. So it was, it was also very dramatic first Zoom.
Welcome to fatherhood.
Thanks.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
Yay, Eton.